What's going on, guys? So in today's video we are going to be installing a modification on the truck that pretty much everyone that has a Duramax should have. Even if you're bone stock, which I kind of am, or mildly modified, which I'm going to be, or if you're like Jacob and you're full-blown race truck, you're definitely going to need this. So since these trucks do not come with a lift pump, you've only got your CP3 in charge of everything. It's got to pull the fuel from your fuel tank all the way up to it and then push it to the injectors. And if you're like most of us, you're buying these Duramaxes that have a decent amount of miles on them, unless you're spending a ton of money. This is a LBZ, so if you want to get a low mile one, you're going to be spending $20-something thousand. And so most of us are going to have a decent amount of miles, 100, 200, 300,000 miles. And so CP3s can become weak over time, especially if you've got mods on them that are desiring more fuel than what it is stock. But even in stock trim, they can become weak. So when that starts happening, you're going to suffer performance loss. Your CP3 can go out, and that is definitely not a cheap thing to replace. So what you want to install is a lift pump, and it is mounted back there by the fuel tank, and it's going to push the fuel all the way up to your CP3, taking the strain off of it. So it really just has to push the fuel from it to your injectors, and it doesn't have to worry about pulling fuel from the fuel tank, and it just alleviates a lot of the strain off of it. So having a fuel pump, even on a stock application, can make it last longer, perform better MPGs, better horsepower, better everything. There's literally no reason why, aside from the cost of you not having a lift pump, even if your truck is bone stock. So no, it is not a required thing, but it is definitely something that's going to help your truck out in the long run. And I know you're going to see people on the forums say that they've got a 500,000 mile truck on a 150 horse tune with no lift pump and it has no issues at all. But there's really no denying the benefits that come with having a lift pump. So as we get closer and closer to diving into some performance sides of this truck, which for anyone new, it's got a 3-inch down pipe, 5-inch straight pipe. That's it right now. Bone stock. We're just really starting to get into this thing. So the first step when doing it right is going to be a lift pump. So I'm happy to announce that I have partnered up with Airdog for this modification. So let's check it out. So we're going to be installing the Airdog 2 4G 165, and this pump is an absolute beast. Jacob has ran this on his truck for years, and his truck is an absolute animal. So I'm sure you've seen on Instagram some of these diesel startups, and you'll hear them turn the key, get everything primed, and you'll hear that loud noise. Wah! I probably look stupid doing that, but you know that sound, and then they'll crank it up. And when you watch the video, you're like, dang, that sounds pretty cool, myself included. But then you get to think, do I want that every time I start my truck, or while it's running, it's going to be making that noise? Do I want that noise? And so that is what the great thing about this Airdog 2 4G is. It's the quietest lift pump on the market. So it's one of those modifications, the very rare modification that you want to install and then kind of forget about. This thing is going to be down there doing its job, getting you all the fuel that your CP3 could desire, and you're really not even going to know it's down there. And that's the best thing about it. So this kit comes with pretty much everything you're going to need, and this is going to give me as much fuel as I should ever want with this truck. We're not going anything crazy, but we definitely want to have a little fun with it, and this is going to make our CP3 very happy. We're going to have all the fuel on our stock fuel system that we could desire. Another awesome feature is this thing's size. So it's a pretty small lift pump. Some of the competitors are much bigger and much harder to hide. So you'll see these big ones hanging off the side of the truck, which personally, I'll be honest, I don't mind that look. I think it just stands out as, hey, this is a diesel, it's just part of it. I don't mind that. But this being smaller and more easy to hide, it is cool. And like Jacob's truck, you literally can't even see his. His is absolutely hidden. The new mounts are these two metal brackets. They go on each side of your frame, and as you can see, different holes, so you can really adjust how high or low you want it depending on your truck and where you want to mount it. So it is unlikely, but if you do manage to have some kind of issue with your new 4G pump, Airdog's customer service is top-notch. They're going to be there for you no matter what. They're going to get you squared away. And so that's another huge thing with a company that has good customer service. And let's be honest, how cool is their decal? However, I will say, if you ever need a new model, my boy Chubert, I don't know, I think he'd look pretty cool on there. Just saying. Dad, just freaking install this thing already. So unfortunately, before we install that, I've got to address one thing with the truck that I've been kind of limping along. About a week or two after buying this truck, I realized that the batteries are on their way out. So if it sits for a couple days, they do drain down to where I have to charge it. If I drive it every day, no problem, but even like a day, that they'll run down. Obviously our alternator's doing its thing. but the batteries are they're just not what they used to be. And so we're gonna have to replace them because our lift pump is gonna be needing all the juice. And I don't really want to be trying to fight this thing anymore. It's so annoying having to charge this thing up and then just deal with this crap. So before we install the lift pump, we're gonna have to go spend some money and buy some batteries. So I just got these out. These are Duralast Pro Power Plus. So they're obviously not the factory AC Delco, which makes sense. But if we look at them, the main thing you really want to look at, you want the 78, but you also want at least an 800 cold cranking amp, which is the CCA. These are obviously 700, and then I want to say that the 1000 is what you want for these. I might be wrong, but I know for a fact I'm going to get one that's an 800 or better cold cranking amp. All right, guys, so I just finished the install. Everything pretty straightforward. I'm going to give y'all a couple tips that were different from the video and the instructions that I just kind of, you know, I can tell y'all straight away rather than y'all having to search for it. I'm going to be leaving a link in the top of the description from Airdog's YouTube channel where they install this on a truck just like this. It's going to be pretty much the same for all your Duramaxes. I'm sure there's a couple different things. The pump that they put in this video, well, I think it's the previous generation of this, and they actually installed it in the outside rather than the inside per the customer request. But I'm going to show y'all exactly how I hooked mine up. It just wasn't kind of feasible for me to show you the actual install. It would have just been a nightmare. The truck's pretty low. It's hard to get under, that kind of stuff. But I'm going to show y'all exactly how to hook it up and a couple tips and tricks on little things that were not mentioned so specifically. We do have the new batteries in. And if you want to roast me for going with these brand, you can send me some money so I can get some $1,000 batteries. But Autocraft Gold, they are 800 cold cranking amps, so that, I mean, it's going to be plenty. This truck sits in the basement all the time. It doesn't need something insane. They got a 3-year warranty. We'll be good. But that's literally the only thing I have left to hook up. Everything else is installed. But before I show y'all how I installed everything, I'm gonna hook the batteries up, make sure everything works first. Let's go ahead and get in here. We got lights. Turn the key. See if our pump comes on. Oh yeah, she's running. It's nice and quiet, but I can definitely hear it running. So sick. So the only thing you had to buy that wasn't included in the kit is this 1/2-inch fuel line disconnect tool. And it's kind of a pain in the butt. You really got to finagle it. It's weird to explain. You kind of got to push it in, pull this, cap it on there, pull the line back, and you just kind of have to work it back and forth until it eventually pops off. It's one of those things that is super frustrating and can take a lot of time, but then it's like it magically just, you feel it disconnect and it just pulls right off like it's nothing. So that can be a very frustrating thing. But on the wiring point, we've got our little whatever computer, the little hub of it right here. We've got our negative right there on that. It's also connected to that negative, so negative there, box there, and then the little guys, I actually had to put a new end on it as well because it was too small for this bolt, but there's a bolt inside of here, right here, that I hooked the positive to because it can't really pinch in here with the side mount. It can't really fit in there. And then we've got the fuse tap right here. As you can see, you've got the 10. Trying to get my hand out the way. Right underneath it, you've got a 10. And then right above it, you got a 10. So 15 on top, 10 below, and we put it right there in a 10. So as you can see right there, and that is going to be right there, TBC ignition 1. I don't know how blurry it is, but that is with the wiring. That's pretty much it, other than there's one connection up here that has 2 little prongs, 2 individual wires. You don't use that with this kit unless you have the added ignition light, which did not come with the kit. I don't have it. It's not required. It's recommended, but not required. So you just tape those up real good. I've got everything bundled up right here out of the way. Should be good to go. Down underneath, crawl down under there with my phone and I'll show y'all. All right, so here's our setup on the inside of the frame. It's completely hidden. Just got everything right here. Here's the other part that you don't use. Got the other connection taped up really good and zip tied out of the way. So you got one going to the Airdog. 2 pumps. This is your fuel in. So this cable or this fuel line runs up. I also did unbolt the fuel cooler, drop it down a little bit in order to get my hand in there better to get that top fuel line disconnected. All the way over, it goes in right there, goes underneath here, and up there to the top of the tank. So that's where it's pulling fuel from the tank. It goes in to this side, which has the single. That's your adjustment screw right there. So then this little one is your return. This is what runs over here, all the way underneath, and then up there to your fuel, where you put fuel in. You got to cut that and put the little neck in there. And then this guy, this is your fuel out. Just runs up, around, and goes up above the fuel tank at the connector up there. Getting to that guy back there was definitely not fun. Wedging between the drive shaft, the tank, and a 5-inch exhaust. It's definitely not much room, but a little finagling, a little weird arm bending action, and you can get to it. So like I said, it's hard to get all these angles, but you'll see in their video, it's very bright. You can see everything good. Your cables are just ran differently because their customer opted to mount it on the outside of the frame, where I've got it on the inside. And as you can see the bracket, but you can't see any filters. It's going to keep it a lot more protected than if it was out here on the side. So that's pretty much the setup. It's pretty straightforward. I know right when I got to open and everything, I was like, this is a little bit overwhelming, just because I wasn't sure on the kit that I got, which I'm sure is the revised one. It's just one single fuel line with a connection separately that you have to put on. So this is how much I had extra. Obviously I got a extended cab, so there's definitely longer trucks. On the connections, you oil them up super good and then just jam them on there, because once they're kind of seated, you're not going to be able to push them on anymore. And it's kind of a hard thing to do, but you just gotta do it. So I guess with all that being said, that's how we're installed. We're all good to go. Guess we need to go ahead and see if she'll crank. So I did go ahead and add diesel to the water separator filter. They don't recommend, they say do not put it in the fuel filter, put it in the water separator filter. So I did that. So it should be primed up. I've still got the stock filter in here up top. So we should be good to go. Let's crank this thing up. It's alive. I don't see any fuel spilling, so that's a good start. Guess we'll go ahead and back it out of here. All right, maiden voyage. Hopefully all is happy. Sounds good. Now there's multiple perks. It's supposed to have better throttle response, better MPGs, better power. I mean, literally they're supposed to be everything, because it's got the fuel right there on tap. It's not having to work for it at all. It's also supposed to make it run quieter, as well as obviously now it's actually got 3 filters on it and a water, well, 2 filters and a water separator. There's not really any need to delete the factory one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just aesthetically looks better if you delete it, and obviously it's one less filter you have to replace. But mine's brand new. There's not really any performance reasons to do it, so I'm just gonna leave it. I think it might actually be a little more responsive, which is sweet. Well, it seems like everything was installed correctly and we're running good. It feels great. I mean, it really does. The truck feels amazing, sounds amazing. No hiccups whatsoever. Fired on the first turn. I mean, I'm just super stoked about this. The pump's super quiet. I mean, literally, it's gonna give you all the performance benefits from it and not bug you at all. We'll see if we can actually see it from this side. I'm sure you can. There she is. So she's just hanging out under there, completely cannot be seen. The only thing you can see is the little plate, and unless you know what you're looking for, you know, you wouldn't know that this even has a lift pump on it, which is cool. You know, a little, not sleeper, because this doesn't really give you any like horsepower or anything, but it definitely is a much more sleek design than if you have it hanging off the side 4 inches lower than your frame on some of these trucks. So even if you wanted to run like the big cat filters or something, you could probably do that and only see like an inch or two of it. Like I said previously, it's one of those modifications that you want to install, let it do its thing, and then not even know it's there. So super excited with that. You already know we had to make it official. Anyone cool enough to support me, I am more than willing to help support them. So let's go ahead and fill this whole freaking back window up. Anyone that wants to hop on board, holla at me. Well, per the usual, GoPro ran out of storage, but it's pretty much gonna do it for this video. Just another huge shout out to Airdog for coming along with this build. Super excited, and I couldn't thank them enough. So all their links will be in the description, of course. If you want to go get one, go over, check out their website. I'm sure they have one for your truck. And now that we have a nice Airdog 2 4G 165 lift pump, truck's gonna be happy, and it might be ready for some other modifications. I might be holding one right now. Might let y'all see it. I don't know what that is. Don't tell anyone what that is, but that might be a video coming out next week. So leave your comments down below what you think that was, what you think about this pump, the setup, everything like that. And with all that being said, I will see you all in the next one. She is most certainly sounding good too.